You know, if scientists ever get their act together and stop researching things like cancer or super El Nino and look into important things like how to inject video clips directly into your veins, I will be first in line for any kind of clinical trial, and I will be bringing this clip along with me.
We'll move on. All right. Okay. Go ahead. On the national security question as well, Senator, are Taiwan and the South China Sea national security issues for the United States? If so, why?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Are Taiwan and the South China Sea national security issues for the United States, and if so, why or how?
You got this.
I'm just going to be honest here. I'm not on national security. I'm not that informed on national security. But I do support the military. My brother was in the Air Force for 33 years. So I will do everything I can to support the military. My dad was in the Army. I'm not a polished politician up here. National security is not my thing, not my area of expertise, but I do support the military.
No further questions, Your Honor. She absolutely has my vote. People are gonna, come after her for this, and they're gonna say, hey, maybe if you're gonna be in a position of power, you should know how to answer these kinds of foreign policy questions. But thankfully, we have Fox News, and they are here to make sure that we're obviously horrified by socialism, but also they're there to rehabilitate folks like Darlene Graham and ensure all of us that actually stupid is good. So let's see how convincing they were.
Senator Darlene Graham, great to have you. It's kind of ironic. When I interviewed you, I kind of got a kick out of the fact that you were very quick to say, I'm not my brother, but I do want to finish the work that he started. And you said, but you used to get on your...
Was that what he said? Was it work? Was it the work that he started? Is that the short one-syllable word that begins with W? You don't think it was maybe war? Was it wars? Was it the wars?
I used to get on your brother. He drove me crazy. I'm like, can you please focus on issues that impact the people of South Carolina? And every time I put him on,
he was like, no.
He only wanted to talk foreign policy. So last night you have a debate. Now, you've been thrown into a situation. The president of our country asked you to run and fill in for your brother. And your governor asked you to take that position. And you have been very clear about the issues you stand on. And, you are for gun control. You're against biological men playing women's sports. You want lower taxes.
She's for gun control.
You supported Todd Blanche for the Senate. You supported the SAVE Act. On many issues, you're more conservative than Lindsey. And so this issue of Taiwan came up last night. And I know people have made a big deal about it. And I'm like, I wonder how many people around the country, if I gave them a map, could pick out Taiwan. I don't think many. And not just the whole country, never mind South Carolina.
South Carolina immediately catching strays. Also, yeah, I think Sean Hannity is definitely right there. I think that would be maybe a potential reason to actually fund education rather than continuously defunding it. But more importantly, who cares? These are our leaders, right? It's their job to know these things so that we can go and live our lives and not have to worry about them. So we send them and we give them a position of power and privilege. And in exchange, they're supposed to know what they're talking about. And they're supposed to govern according to the interests of their constituents. It's really a beautiful system, but I guess they're doing things a little differently.
Right. I think you're 100% right, Sean. And, I tripped up on one question last night regarding Taiwan. But, I've said many times, I'm not a politician, certainly not a career politician. I don't speak politician. I was just honest. And I think that's kind of a foreign concept. But I talked to several people today. I traveled around the state and they said, we appreciated the fact that you were honest. And
Yeah, the people you were directly speaking to were not horribly rude to you, as if real life might be different than the internet. I'm sure they were
And
nice to you.
I did say several times that, China is our enemy, our military and economic threat to the United States. Of course, Taiwan is our friend, but I think people in South Carolina are more worried about making ends meet. They're concerned about boys and girls sports. One lady talked to me extensively about that today. They're concerned about the Second Amendment. They're concerned about the Save America Act, illegal immigration. So they're concerned about a lot of other
All the
things
hits.
other than Taiwan.
Yeah.
The use of the word friend to describe Taiwan reminds me of how the terms of good guys and bad guys came about as a result of the Cold War. When Cold War paranoia was popping off, it was a term that essentially came to define a lot of our foreign policy. You're either with us or against us. There's good guys and there's bad guys. And I think that's an overly simple way of understanding foreign policy. I also think that it creates a false binary, and it forces China, and along with many other reasons, to be perceived inherently as an enemy. But I don't know how smart that is, because what are we going to do? Are we going to go to war with China over Taiwan? The reality, I think, is that both China and the United States are essentially superpowers, and we are no longer in the realm of us being the only superpower on the planet. And so the answer, as I see it, is to coexist, and that's it. And there's a spheres of influence model we can return to. Everybody minds their own business, but our economies are intertwined so much that this idea that they're just an enemy, that we're on the verge always of going to war with them, I think is both dangerous rhetoric and completely unrealistic, because if that were to happen, it could very well blow up the entire planet. But hey, I mean, I'm not one of the, I don't fuss with all that stuff, all this political stuff.
And to be fair, if people want to judge you on the South China Sea and Taiwan, okay, I think that's fair. But I bet
we do,
based on all your time with your brother, that you know probably everything about the Middle East, because he went on one trip after another to every country in the Middle East. And I know you know a lot about Europe and the Ukraine-Russia situation, because he went to Ukraine more than any other senator. And you even said in our interview that you were going to focus more on domestic issues than your brother did. I mean, you were very clear.
that's not a hard bar to clear.
Absolutely. I know national security is important. We have a wonderful commander-in-chief. I know that we need to stand with the Israel, and the issues in Iran are serious. I understand all that. But again, I'm focused on the issues for everyday people in South Carolina that are struggling to make ends meet. So that's where I really want to focus.
Yeah, nothing puts food on the table like being concerned about boys and girls
Another
sports.
concern from the debate I have last night is my opponent said he was going to cut Social Security. That's very concerning to me. He also talked about creating a pathway for illegal immigrants. So that's another concern I have.
A pathway? No, we're supposed to put him in cages and serve him rotten food and make him sleep all night with the lights on and not give him any form of due process. Like, get it together, man. This is the Republican Party.
Yeah, well, he's not a Trump supporter either. By the way, President Trump has so much confidence in you. He is going to campaign on your behalf in Myrtle Beach, I believe, on Friday, right?
If you listen carefully, you can hear every McDonald's employee in Myrtle Beach just sweating profusely.
Absolutely. We are so excited about him coming to Myrtle Beach. You know, South Carolina absolutely loves President Trump. We're looking forward to it. Everybody's so excited. So we can't wait for it. We're going to have a wonderful rally in Myrtle Beach. So looking forward to it. Absolutely.
All right, Darlene, we appreciate your time being with us. I do miss your brother. I talk to him every night. And he did talk too much about foreign policy. And I used to say, talk about something else, please. But we miss him.
I told him the same thing. I told him, yeah, same thing.
I know, he never listened.
I miss.
Bloodlust is crazy, right?
Tim Scott would tell him too. I'm like, oh, all right, Darlene, thank you.
Wow, really incredible stuff. You know, I am interested to see how this plays out with this whole strategy again of, hey, I'm just not a politician. I call it like I see it. I think that has worked really well for the past decade, I guess, at least since Donald Trump. And so I think it is a reasonable strategy on its face. The thing I think that they're forgetting is Donald Trump was not just like not a politician. He also sold himself on being a great businessman and is also, I guess, now responsible for about a third of our over $40 trillion of national debt. But at least he was like giving a positive image too, not just, oh, I'm not a politician. And also, again, these are our leaders. If I go to the doctor and the doctor doesn't know or can't locate my liver, and then I'm like, well, you're a bad doctor, and he's like, yeah, well, you don't know where it is either. Like, that's not how it works. If your job is to know these things, so we don't have to. But of course, she's towing the line here, and she's doing all of the little check boxes and whatever, and she's just saying all the right words. Even Sean Hannity's getting tripped up. You're pro gun control. He didn't mean to say that. I think sometimes they just sort of have a list of words, they spit them out, and hey, like all of us, sometimes they don't come out in the right order. But also, it was not her tripping up. She just didn't know what she was talking about. And even then, when she was further explaining it, it sounded again like she was not quite getting the context of the original question. And hopefully, people care about that, because we have seen what happens when we elect people who have no idea what they're doing, and it's not good. I also think some of the responsibility for a lot of this like anti-intellectualism trends that we see right now in the media and in politics is the fault of oftentimes academia. Like, there can be a kind of elitism there, and people have grown to distrust a lot of the expertise in the nation, and that is not a good thing. Because then you end up sending 20-year-olds in to gut Social Security, and then you end up with RFK, and you end up with screwworm flies and measles, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it sounds like we did the experiment. All right, we've seen these non-politicians come in, these non-experts who just are at least honest about not knowing anything. I'm thinking I would prefer a politician who like still knew what they were doing, even if they lied. Like, just know something and, try to be honest. But I would much rather your policy decisions be informed than your rhetoric be honest, just so you can win points with people who want to personally identify with you because they're not actually interested in your platform. They just want to feel like they themselves are in your position rather than them being in the position to act in their interest. So anyway, I just thought that was a funny video, and I don't know if it's going to work for her, and I think it's absolutely okay to make fun of her. And apparently, so does Sean Hannity. So good luck to Darlene Graham. I hope she goes nowhere. I hope she continues debating every single day. I hope she's on every television program. I want her to be the new host of The Tonight Show. That's where I'm at. That's my political position. Bye, everybody.